Okay, welcome back to the East Wing, folks. This is part two with my good friend Jason Riddle, who spent approximately 20 years in the U.S. Air Force. If you didn't get a chance to have a look at part one, perhaps you would want to do that first before proceeding into listening to part two of our conversation. Also, please be aware that some of the language here is quite flagrant, so viewer discretion is advised. All right, welcome everybody to another episode of In the East Wing. This is part two with my good friend Jason Riddle, and in today's episode, we'll try to focus more on, I guess, politics and a fair bit about Jason's career and the changes in administration. So, Jason, welcome back.
Thanks, brother. It's great to be back. I'm deeply honored. Thank you for letting me come back.
Absolutely.
And I had a great time the first time, and we're gonna have a great time this time.
Oh yeah, awesome. No, I'm sure of it. So before we proceed into the, I guess, the spicy topics, although I'm sure even the beginning is going to be spicy, I was just wondering how. When you first joined, which was I think in the late '90s, when you joined the Air Force
in 1999.
In 1999,
yeah.
At the time, I think it was the administration of. It wasn't George Bush. It was Bill Clinton.
So Bill Clinton was still the president for a few more months, weeks.
Yeah, because in the year 2000 is when Bush.
Yeah. No. Yeah. So he would have. So I joined January 6, 1999.
Yeah.
So W. Bush, would have been sworn in that that January he would have been sworn in.
Oh, okay.
Right?
Yeah,
because wasn't the election in '98?
I think he got into office in 2000, if I'm not mistaken, because there was a Supreme Court decision.
Let's do some Googling.
Yeah. Let's look that up.
It's the hard part with being in the past.
Yeah. But it's interesting, though. It feels like it was a long time ago, like 25 years ago. Gosh.
Oh, my God. My spelling's horrible.
Yeah. This is a time when, like, if one is exposed to Joe Rogan, this is when we
need a Jamie.
Yeah, pull
we don't have a Jamie.
Yeah. But shout out to Jamie, our advisor, though, because we do have an advisor, Jamie.
So 01 to 09. So I did serve a year under the Clinton administration.
Gosh.
So that tracks.
Yeah. So when
for a year and a half. Yeah.
Yeah. So you.
That's right, because I said in the first episode. Remember we were talking about I was overseas.
Yeah.
When
9/11
W was inaugurated.
Oh yeah.
And like a couple days after, we had our first big bombing mission in the north.
That's right.
And it was like, game on.
Yeah.
Listen here, bitches.
Yeah. Because it was the first. You said like he got into office, and then there was the Iraq bombing, like sending a clear message.
We sent everything that we could to go attack the north. Yeah. Absolutely.
Shit. Yeah.
From Kuwait.
Good Lord.
Yeah, and to reference where we were in Kuwait at Al Jaber. And we pushed into the no-fly zone and attacked targets that had been attacking us for months.
Right. It was payback.
Or for years in some cases, yeah.
Yeah. And so would you say that your service was impacted largely through the changes in administrations throughout the years?
Some yes and some no.
Okay.
Because I was in the training pipeline for that year and some change when Clinton was still in president. And I wasn't a big Clinton fan either. It was back when I was red team kid. You know what I mean? I was a good Republican, and I was like, "Fuck this guy, he sucks." And when people don't realize that Californians are very political.
Oh,
very. Like
even back then,
and I think it's because of the environment that is so skewed in one political direction that those who oppose so aggressively. You know what I mean? And so like to be a California Republican was like a big deal.
Wow.
And like you had to swing hard. You had to be ready to throw down, right? And so and my first foray into politics was I worked on Dan Lundgren's campaign in 1998, who was running for governor. and he didn't win. But
Mm.
um, my job. So, long story short, the dealership had found out that I had joined the military, and so I had nothing to do in December of '98,
Oh,
and I was
wow.
coming in January of '99,
Yeah.
and I quit working there in the early part of December of '98. Well, we're full on in this election season, and so my job for the party, for California GOP, was to go rip down the opponent's signs.
Whoa. I didn't think you guys were that nasty back then.
Oh yeah. So we just went all around Sacramento like this little gang of hooligans,
Holy shit.
ripping down the other guy's signs.
Gosh.
And I was a paid volunteer, if you will.
That's interesting. A little bit of wink in there.
And it was I mean, it was fun. I mean, I was just turned 21.
Yeah.
I was a wild kid then,
Mm.
and when I came in, I was when you're in the training environment, you're very sheltered.
Yeah.
You have no clue what's going on in the outside world when you're in basic training, and even in the front end of tech school, because my initial school was 9 months, almost 10. I think it was 10 by the time it was over because I'd failed a couple classes and I had to stay a little longer.
Gosh.
Yeah,
It happens.
Learning how to fix airplanes is challenging. And I found out I had test anxiety there. That's when I found out I had
That's a real condition.
a real
test
condition, and I
anxiety.
would freak the fuck out when that.
Holy shit.
And I think because so much was on the line, and they would tell you here's this test, you better get a 70 or better, or you got to go find a shitty job.
Oh my.
And it was all that went, and they would do that minutes before you go start filling in bubbles. You know what I mean? It's
yeah.
I'm like, oh, hey, B, I don't know if, you're freaking out. And it's like, I'm going to get fired from my government job that I don't even have yet. You know what I mean? So it's a lot of pressure. And, and then there's the pressure of the industry, right? You don't want to be a fuck up airplane mechanic because
That's right.
we just saw in the last 24 hours,
Yeah, Washington, D.C.
people die in airplanes.
Yeah.
A lot,
Yeah.
So if you are not that sharp leading edge, then somebody could croak and you would be responsible.
Right.
And I never wanted that on my hands. So
yeah, no, not at all. You don't want to be the kid who's the odd one out, and they're like, how did he get involved?
Right.
Yeah. It's
right.
like who got him in?
I'm sure whoever works on those Blackhawks right now, they're going through it.
Oh.
Because whenever there's a crash, there's an investigation right away.
Right.
And first things that happens is all the maintenance records on that aircraft get seized. Yeah, the cops come in, snatch all that shit up, and then they start going through who's touched this airplane, or in this case, this helicopter, in the last 72 hours, the last 48 hours, and the last, who released this aircraft, all that kind of stuff starts happening. And, you hear about, the whole unit gets pulled in for a drug test, everybody, this blanket kind of actions in regards to a crash. So, yeah, it's a big deal.
And so with that, you have, I guess, you have to be quite responsible and you have to be quite cautious. So the training, they must ensure that, dude, you got to be on top of your game. Otherwise, you're just not.
Well, there's a personal aspect that they don't teach you. And it's when you get to your first unit, there's because training never really stops, right? There's always a flow of new people coming in.
Yeah.
Right? And old people going out. People retire, people get out. It's a cycle of life in any unit in the military, right? But in aircraft maintenance, at the time, we were directly tied to our operational unit. So we were a part of the fighter squadron. We weren't an aircraft maintenance squadron. We weren't an aircraft maintenance group. We were in the 74th Fighter Squadron as their maintenance unit, right? And so one command, one unified action, right? And it had its benefits and it had its drawbacks too. One of the drawbacks being our highest ranking officer was an 03. So we had a captain that was our senior maintenance officer, but the commander of the squadron is an 05. So guess who wins all the arguments? Not us.
Oh, gosh.
So that's part of the reason why the restructure happened, and there's aircraft maintenance squadrons and aircraft maintenance groups now. But they create their own stupid. That goes with it too. But what I was getting to is that you get to know the pilots who are coming up at the same time as you are.
Oh, gosh. Okay.
I'm still friends with, guys I knew who are retired colonels now that I knew them when they were a lieutenant.
Wow.
And they knew me when I was an airman because we got there around the same time. They were learning how to fly the A-10 at the operational tempo, right? Because they do come trained on how to fly the aircraft, but they don't know how to run at the pace that we run at.
Mm.
And we're learning how to maintain this aircraft, right? So you have that kind of bond of being in that I'm new phase, right? We were new together, right? That kind of thing, right? You know, like it's like going to work at a company. Like, you know, you always kind of remember the guys who came in with you or gals that came in with you.
You were guys in the same phase of life, I guess.
In that same phase of life. They might have been a smidge older than me because they were like, you know, they had graduated college.
Right.
But like, I'm 21, turning 22. Some of these dudes are like 24.
Right.
We're not that far apart in age.
Yeah. It's still the same
Or
phase,
25, right?
Yeah.
So that was kind of, it was nice, you know, and when that happens and you get to know these folks, it's a different ballgame. You know, I'm not going to be responsible for my homie's death. You know what I mean?
Right.
I'm going to bust my ass to make sure that he gets to go home and see his kids and his wife. Right.
Yeah.
And that really resonated with me every day. And that's the caliber I trained my subordinates to, you know, like, because they would be like, well, you know all these people. I'm like, well, yeah, because I got to go talk to him about what he saw. You know what I mean? Because I can't go take the aircraft for a test drive.
Yeah.
I have to go back, and sometimes you can read what they wrote up. You know, they only have like this 2-inch by 3-inch square to write up malfunctions, right? So sometimes you need more than that. And or if I would see indication in the cockpit where maybe steps were skipped, and I'd be like, hey, so was this you know? And then they'd be like, oh yeah, sorry, bro. And then you just go back and just sign it off, you know, recycle power, system check's good.
Yeah.
You know.
But there has to be clarity and transparency between the two parties.
Right.
Yeah.
And you get to know each other, like, and we're all on the same team. We're not battling factions, you know. Which now I do feel that now that separation exists, where maintainers and operators, if you will, are not under the same umbrella, there is a lot more factionalism. Because when I did return to aircraft maintenance in the drone world, there was a lot more factionalism.
Oh
yeah.
What would you say you would attribute that reason to?
Because of the difference in command structures. And we all have a different dad.
Oh.
Who has a different view of what is right and what is wrong.
Oh.
And when you add that dynamic to the situation, it becomes a my team versus your team. And it, you know, like we used to rag our pilots, you know, it takes a college degree to break an aircraft and a high school diploma to fix it. But, you know, at the same time, it's like, you know, that's just a joke. We're just talking shit.
Yeah.
But when I made it back to the community in the end of my career, like, that was dogma.
Wow.
You know, yeah.
It's true.
These fucking dudes don't know what the fuck they're doing. And that was it. It was like very much more a factional wedge in between the two. So
yeah, that's interesting though. I'm glad we brought that up because we didn't really highlight it in the previous conversation.
Oh, aircraft maintenance is so dramatic.
Gosh.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I remember even like there was an example in the previous episode. I can't really share it off the top of my head, like the details, but I do remember how there was a close call with you being on like the pilot's seat. You were trying to fix something.
Yeah, I left the ejection seat hot. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And it was like that was you know.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Gosh.
Oh yeah. Well, and you know, when you come, like I said, when you come to the training pipeline, you hear all these horror stories about shit that happened, right? And one of the horror stories I heard was about the F4 had a different manufacturer that made its ejection seats. They're called Martin Baker.
Okay.
Asus makes the more modern ones, right?
Like the safe over to computers, like Asus.
No, it's like ACISS.
ACISS. Okay.
Yeah, Asus 2 is the most, well, at least in my era was the ejection seat model, right?
Okay.
And because they could have a newer one now, I don't know, right? And I don't want to tell lies out of school. But the Martin Bakers were infamous for going off at the wrong time.
Shit.
They call them Martin Baker Widowmakers.
Oh shit.
And there's this horror story of what happened. This event happened at Nellis, where a guy was, because you know the cockpit's about it's about 1.5 feet,
Uh-huh.
and you lean over it, right?
Yeah.
So the pilot sits in it. It's really only like when people talk about strapping an aircraft on, that's
Mm-hmm.
pretty serious because it's only really meant to hold you and make you do only certain movements. You don't really have full freedom.
Yeah, no mobility.
No, not in a fighter,
Yeah.
right? And so this dude's leaning over the cockpit working on something. Well,
Mm-hmm.
leaning over the seat. The seat is saved, but it went off and like through his body and like splattered him everywhere.
Oh, God.
And so when I had that like ass pucker moment that I'm sitting on a live seat, what's the first thing that goes through my head is this event from
Story.
Nellis,
Yeah.
right? Like,
Yeah.
fuck, I could have got splattered across this cockpit, right?
God.
And so and what's wild is, so fast forward to 2005 when I retrained into SATCOM,
Yeah.
I met a guy who actually was on the ramp
Shit. And saw
at
it.
Nellis the day this incident happened
God.
and verified all accounts. And I was like,
Oh my God. That image is probably stuck in his head
oh
now
yeah.
forever.
And it was like his first day on the flight line. And so, and this
Dude.
happens. I'm like, holy fuck.
Gosh, that's experiential learning.
Yeah.
In real life.
And of course, I'm sure there was a lot of those conversations happening. Like, see, this is what happens.
Yeah.
You don't do this. You have to do this step. You have to do that step. And if you don't, you're going to fucking get splattered by the seat.
Man.
And
Gosh.
yeah.
Gosh. I mean, so with your first, say, entry 2001, or maybe that was your first deployment.
My first deployment was across 2000 into 2001.
Okay. Yeah. You've had that could have been, I think, potentially under the George Bush Jr.
It was the beginning
Yeah.
of the W. Bush era. Yeah.
How would you say your I don't know if operational tempo would be the right description, but perhaps the system, broadly speaking, changed per the changes in administrations, like your job. Right. How did that? What sort of major changes did it experience from one administration to the next?
Well, you have, like I said, I don't really remember a lot of the goods and bads of the Clinton years.
Yeah.
Right. Now, there were people who raised me in the military who knew the goods and bads of the Clinton years and were again, equally unhappy with his performance. Particularly, I think Clinton closed more bases than any president in the history of the presidency. Yeah.
Wow.
And so a lot of that Cold War infrastructure got chipped away at by the Clinton administration.
Right. Yeah.
And a lot of positions got like eliminated. So they went from having more people they know what to do with at most capacities to having not enough.
Whew.
And that is a big culture shock.
Yeah.
I think I remember hearing that my old shop before I got there was like 15 people just for avionics. And I was person number 6.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So or person number 5.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's a big cut. I want to say our entire flight, which was like our kind of equivalent to like a squad or the equivalent to like a platoon in the Army, right? But we had 4 different career fields in there. We had electro-environmental, we had engines, we had us, and we had communications and navigation.
Yeah.
So we had 4 different career fields underneath one banner of leadership, right?
Yeah.
I think our entire flight wasn't even a full 30 people. And, all of us are charged with working on all 22 aircraft.
That's 30 for 22 aircrafts. Gosh.
And like I said, I was the 5th avionics guy.
Yeah.
We got another one that same year. The year after that, which would have been into 2000, we got one other guy.
Wow.
Now, and you want to talk about change in administration. After Iraq, we got like fucking like 8 people, 9 people a year.
Yeah.
So like our numbers went up big time.
Oh yeah.
And I remember, I don't know if I said in the first episode, there was a point where I supervised 6 people, but I was, and I didn't necessarily facilitate all of their training, but I was facilitating training for 11 people.
Whew.
Yeah. And
That's
we
a
had to
huge
review training
increase.
records every Friday night. So like a night like tonight, right? I'd be sitting underneath a nose gear of an A-10 while my guys are working on the aircraft, and I'm listening to them
Yeah.
over the interphone so I can hear what they're troubleshooting, and I'd be down on the ground signing off tasks.
Whoa.
Yeah.
No breaks, even on a Friday night.
Yeah.
No drinks. No,
Yeah,
no hitting the bar.
And my backpack was about the same size as my backpack I carry at school, so it'd be full of training records.
Holy shit.
Yeah, and they're big like trifold binders like this, but they open up 3 ways.
Wow.
So you have like, formal training here, or their tasks over here, and then like you have a ledger on the other side you have to write out. So you'd have to sign off tasks in the middle.
Yeah.
And then right when you got done, you had to write, okay, today I signed airman blah, 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 off on these 20 tasks, and then you and the trainee had to sign it. So I'd go back through and you have a line for the trainee to sign. The trainee has to sign all the tasks that you sign them off on. So they have to agree that they have that capability of knowledge.
Wow.
And then you have to go back through it. So I'd be doing my part. And then that shift, I tried to catch everybody I could. And I had the whole next week to try to catch the other guys that weren't on my shift.
Yeah.
To sign off their stuff too.
Man.
Yeah.
That you said peak Iraq War.
Yeah.
Right?
So this is like 04.
04. Okay.
Yeah.
So that is a major event. If we were to say fast forward to like the rise of ISIS, would you say that during that time you experienced also another accelerated?
Nope.
No.
Nope.
Oh my.
No, ISIS was definitely the do more with less
Do
world.
more with less.
So we went through in 6. We went through one big round of cuts that cut because I got into communications in 05.
Yeah.
In 6 there was like they canned a bunch of majors. There was a bunch of majors that were like non-promotable. That's 04 rank. And they just were like, okay, you can't make it. Bye. And so they got canned. I had to fight for my new position. I ended up on the mandatory retraining list. And mind you, my training has reset. So I'm back at the bottom in a new career field.
God.
Right? I figured I would be safe because I'm a new guy again. Right? But they look at your years in service. And so they're like, well, maybe you're not a new guy. Maybe we need to shake hand you too. And so like I had to fill out a bunch of documentation to like prove why I wanted to stay in the career field. But that mandatory retrain list came around every year, the Obama years.
Dude.
Every year. Bam.
Because they're trying to remove people,
Well, and my old career field, by the time when I got there, they were already like in this state of influx, right? So they're combining with ground radio and part of our IT function, the tech control, a piece of tech control became part of what became radio frequency transmissions. And when that happened, and granted, all conversions are slow process. I just went through one in avionics, right? So that was another reason why I left the career field, was because I felt like the new imposed structure made it like impossible to get promoted.
Okay.
And I was like, well, I'm not going to be in a dead end job. I mean, it's part of the reason I joined the military is to get the fuck out of a dead end job.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm not going to be in another dead end job.
Yeah.
And so when I get to satellite communications, they're like, oh, guess what? In 06, so I retrained throughout all of 2005.
Yeah.
In 06, they decided to push this new career field merger. And so I want to say by mid 07, like everything had been documented where everybody was retrained into the new career fields. But it was still a mess. And that, again, so that mandatory retraining list comes around. It's got like 300 names on it.
God.
And now I don't know if that meant all 300 had to go, because they would never like fully be transparent about how many people had to go.
They would never. Well, why not?
I think they were trying to hope to get more.
Oh.
So if they didn't tell you how many had to go, they would maybe get more people to volunteer to go.
Okay.
And so
I see the strategy.
Yeah, it's kind of a fucked up strategy.
No, it is. It is. No, it really is.
And that happened, but that happened like all the time. Like, and I almost considered, when I was in Belgium, I retook the ASVAB, which is the test you have to take when you join the military.
Oh.
Because my administration scores were garbage.
God.
I think I got like a 40 something out of 99 in admin, right? So
Gosh.
but and it's broken out to admin, general, and this is just Air Force breakout because every service does their own um, uh, weighting of the scores, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so it's admin, general, electronics, and mechanical.
Yeah.
So in general, I get a 95. In in uh, in electrical and mechanical, I get 99s. So like I crushed it
Nice.
in the area I ended up in. But I was like, I was looking at other jobs, and one of the jobs I was looking at was contracting,
Uh-huh.
which I thought was a pretty cool gig because they manage contractors, right?
Right.
And so I was like, this is kind of a cool gig. It's like a little bit of production, like project management type stuff
Yep.
going on, and they had a fat bonus, like it was huge. Um, it was a 6 multiplier, which means it was like 6% of your base pay times the years of service. So like it ended up being like 40, 50K. It was a big ass bonus.
Wow.
And it hit different metrics. So like if you had a certain amount of time in service, you didn't get the good bonus.
Okay,
right?
but you had this.
So I thought I did. I did.
Shit.
This is why it didn't happen.
Okay.
So I thought I did, and I was like, "Sweet, I'm fucking doing this." I went. The Army hosts a course called GT Improvement, and it's basically like how to improve your scores on the ASVAB, right? And they kind of go back through some good old fashioned like high school shit, and kind of like get you squared away, and like you have to go through some English stuff, and it was a really helpful class, and I was like, being that I was in this joint billet, I like in a joint job, I was like, hey, so is there a GT improvement class happening, and can I take it? And they're like, well, I don't know, we'll find out. And then I found out that the unit I was directly attached to was hosting it, and I was like, oh, can I really fucking take it? And they were like, yeah, I think you can take it. And so I asked my dads, and they were like, yeah, you can take it, Riddle. I don't give a fuck.
Nice.
They didn't like me anyway, so to get me out of the shop for a little bit was probably a blessing. So I go and take this GT improvement class, and I retake the fucking ASVAB right away. Yeah. Fucking destroy the ASVAB the second time. Get all 90s and above in all 4 categories.
Love it.
And so I was like, okay, now I'm qualified for no shit any job in the Air Force. So
that's amazing, though.
And it was an amazing feeling too.
Yeah.
And I was like, all right, I'm putting together this retraining packet. I'm getting the fuck out of fucking SATCOM because it's a mess. And I put together a retraining packet, and I go to send it up, and I had to talk to a career counselor. And the career counselor goes and looks at my records, and he goes, you sure you want to do this? And I was like, well, yeah, it's got this fucking ridiculous bonus. It gets me the fuck out of here. It gets me out of this job. I fucking hate it. Let's go. And I was coming up on 15 years of service. I wasn't quite there. I was almost there.
Okay.
And he's like, you got too much time in service, bro. You fit the higher end of the bonus scale. You don't qualify for any of the bonuses. And I was like, well, fuck. And he's like, do you want to withdraw your package? And I was like, yeah, I'll withdraw my package. I guess I'll deal with this bullshit for another 5 years.
Oh my God, dude. I'm sorry. The excitement was there, and then they yank it out of you.
I was like, son of a bitch. And I just got promoted too. So when you pick up a new stripe, it kind of puts you in a new bracket of how you weigh against everything else. And so that also didn't help either. Shit. So I was like, well, it happens.
And that was what year again?
This was in...
You said Belgium.
So this is in 2012.
Ah, yeah.
Around the time when fucking Libya is jumping off.
That's so crazy.
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
And then you said there was something before the recording we talked about with, I think it's Trump administration 2015. Or was 2017.
Yeah, so I did deploy under the first Trump V1.
Oh yeah.
Now, on one thing, okay, because we're talking about how the flavor of the military changes through administrations, right?
Yeah.
So, I had the change from Clinton to Bush.
Mm-hmm.
That was we suddenly kind of got it was like the golden era of my career. Oh. We got everything we asked for.
Oh wow.
And then some. We needed people, you got people. You need fucking supplies, you got supplies. You need fucking deployments, you got deployments.
Wow.
It happened because and that's probably because of 9/11.
Yeah.
Our nation had been attacked. We want to go square these dudes away, whatever it takes, right? But But as the war like kind of like began to draw out, that momentum starts to go away, right? And that was one of the things the Obama administration wasn't a big fan of anyway. They felt like it was bloat in the military,
Right.
even though that what really had happened was that all the, particularly in the area of having personnel, all the damage that the Clinton administration had done wasn't totally undone, but it was better, right? So we got to where we're like at a good strength of amount of people.
Yeah.
And the Obama years were like, nope, too many people. And so they started hacking people.
Yeah.
They turned on a 15-year retirement. It's where you can retire at 15 years of service.
Whoa.
I have a buddy of mine who took it. He took the 15-year out. I have a few friends that kind of like took other early out incentives.
There were those hidden early outs.
Yeah, like different hidden early outs. Like there was a time where like they would like give you a certain amount of money to get out.
Dude.
Yeah. Like everything to reduce the force.
Wow.
Which is crazy to me because when you think about, I don't know what goes on in the equation in Washington where they think the people cost more than the stuff does. You know what I mean? Like, not every fucking office needs new furniture every year.
Right.
You know what I mean? Not everybody needs brand new computers every 6 months. Not everybody needs brand new servers every 6 months. You start adding up all this shit, and it starts to cost millions and billions of dollars, right? You don't need all that shit all the time. And other commands are cheaper than others. I was in Air Combat Command, so ACC. We used to say another cheap contingency.
I gotta write that one down.
And so, and ACC was super tight with their budget, right? Okay. But and I wasn't always in ACC, but that's the command I served in the most.
Right.
But yeah, it was like always that's like tightening of the belt. Or to cut back on training TDYs, which are trips where you send people to go training. Got to cut back on those.
Abroad to train abroad,
or in the States. So like
domestically.
Like if there was because the different training bases have different trainings they offer. Right?
That's right.
And some trainings are mandatory, so you have to go, right? But then others aren't, and so but they're nice because you can get a guy spun up on training that's an additive, if you will, right? One of the things that got cut in the Obama years was we would advance through skill levels in your career field, right? Like when I was talking about when I had retrained a SATCOM and they're coming after me for my job. I was a recently reissued 3-level, right?
Okay.
It's 3, 5, 7, and 9, right? 9s are E8s and E9s. 3s are E1 through E4. And usually around E4 you make your 5-level. Between E5 and E6, 7-level.
Yeah.
And then 9 after you make E7. And so I was a recently rechristened 3-level, but I was also still a 7-level in aircraft maintenance.
Okay.
So it's not that the old career field goes away; it's still there.
Yeah.
It's just your secondary.
Okay.
So there were times where, for accounting's sake, I would count as an avionics 7-level,
right,
or I would count as a SATCOM 3-level. So I kind of like had this like middle ground I lived in for a little while, and until my current rank or my current training matched my current rank.
And when did that happen?
That happened at my second base as a SATCOMer.
Oh yeah.
In Georgia.
Okay.
And because it takes a while to get trained. It's by design. You don't want somebody to smash through such important training.
Right.
There are things that could be cut, but that's for when I'm Secretary of Defense. I'll take care of that shit.
But so with Trump coming into power, and obviously we're going to talk about like the funding, the freezing of like funds and things like that. Yeah. That has been impacting.
So that was big time in the Obama years. So our budgets got cut like crazy. Look up sequestration. That's where there was like a shrinking of the defense budget like drastically.
Oh. So
we had like a new threshold we could only hit, and so once you ran out of money, no más money. And that happened a lot. So like through So he got, what, in '08 was he elected? So
Yeah.
8, 9, 10, 11, was it 12, 13, 14, 15?
Yeah.
16 was Trump, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, and Obama was still president throughout the calendar year of 16, if I remember correctly.
That's right, because Trump got in January of 2017.
January of 17.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so across those 8 years, money was tight.
Man.
Really tight. And that's when we have this rise of ISIS, right?
Yeah.
And that was one of the kind of punches at the Obama administration. They didn't take the ISIS threat as seriously as they could have because they didn't put their money where their mouth was. They didn't spend the money on it.
Right.
And I know this podcast is probably not as exciting as the last one because we're talking a lot about money.
No.
But
This is good.
You know, and that's kind of just how it was. Like, so they cut funds and they cut people really bad. And that's what I was trying to say. Like, you know, no one really thinks about the things that are expensive, but they look at the people that are expensive. And that's what's ridiculous because I feel like the people cost less than the stuff does.
Right. Because you're carrying gear that costs
You're
like
carrying
millions.
gear.
Perhaps.
You're responsible for gear that's worth millions of dollars.
Right.
You're maintaining gear that's worth millions of dollars.
Right.
You know, and the people are worth, you know, a couple hundred thousand by the time they're trained up, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't think we cost as much as they made us out to seem. But I think what it is, it's because it's easy to cut.
Oh.
I can shit can bodies all day long. But if you're going to sell off equipment, who's going to buy it? You know, I mean, there's a lot more. It's harder. And that was one thing that I resented about the Obama administration was that I felt like it was always the push the button to fix the problem. And once I pushed the button, the problem's fixed. And there was never, well, maybe the problem is a little more complicated than just pushing the button. You have to like put some research into this and do some legwork, and then maybe we can, you know, come up with other ways to cut. And there was a whole initiative to cut back. There was a oh God, what was it? AFSO 21 was Air Force Smart Operations for the 21st century. And not everybody had this because it was like supposed to hit everybody, but it didn't.
Yeah.
And it hit Air Mobility Command really bad, and they called it the Lean Shop.
The Lean Shop.
And the Lean Shop would come to your shop, come to where you work, and they would watch what you did, and then they would develop a report for you to do things smarter based on their observations.
Oh.
It never worked right. and they would create what they would call lean events. And so they would like take you through a task and then watch how the people perform that task and then be like, okay, so you could have like saved a couple of minutes here or seconds here or buying this part costs this much money. Like,
but are they experts at this
No,
stuff?
they were just like fuckos who they had hired to do this shit.
Consultant.
Like some consultant, you know, usually retired GIs, right? Who are like, this thing's fucking stupid anyway. I already know it's stupid. But yeah, here I owe you this report that says, you know, you could have saved money here, but you really couldn't. You know, so there was that when it came to the AFSO 21 thing. I was sheltered from AFSO 21 a little bit because I had moved away. I'd moved back into the joint world again. Yeah. And so I was sheltered from that because AFSO 21 went crazy when I was in Belgium.
Gosh.
So I had those almost 4 years of being in Belgium. Yeah. Where I was kind of protected from a lot of the stupid that was going on in the regular Air Force.
That's even better.
Yeah.
Was there major things happening under Trump V1?
Not really.
Okay.
We all kind of thought it was going to be like going back to the glory days of the Bush years, right? Where if you wanted it, you got it, right?
Yeah.
There was none of that.
Whoa.
There was a lot of just silence out of the White House and out of policy. Like a lot of just not things happening.
Interesting.
Right? Because I would have thought that like at least money for logistics would have got cut back on. Yeah. Right? And no.
He was also thinking like pulling out of Syria like that.
Right. And there was a lot of like, ugh. You know what I mean? It was just kind of shitty that like, it definitely wasn't as good as what people think it was. Right? Like, we always do this thing where we put the old president on this big pedestal and, oh my God, everything he touched was beautiful and golden. It was amazing. And that's not always true. like things were good in the Bush years and they were also bad in the Bush years. Things were
Mhm.
good in the Obama years, they were also bad in the Obama years. People are people, right?
Yeah,
it,
they
they,
make mistakes.
you have both, right? You have
Mhm.
both dynamics there. Not everything's going to be perfect and beautiful, and rainbows emit from every orifice on our body, right? you know, so it's not really ever like that. And
Yeah.
so I think that what happened with the Trump v1 years, which I was shocked, was that the money for parts and supplies was not really a thing.
Whoa.
And that stayed at like Obama era spending levels, which I thought that was interesting.
That's crazy
So like
to me.
so like when I got to Qatar and I ordered a new radio, it took like months for it to show up and lots of justification to order a new radio.
Wow.
And so if I needed to, but I could turn shit in. If I had old shit to turn in, they were all about it. And so because we went through a service wide upgrade where we downgraded these older radios, and which was hilarious because I bumped into these pieces of shits back in 2015. Like the Navy lived and died by them.
Oh yeah.
They're like, we love it was the PSC-5 radio, and they're like, fucking, oh yeah, PSC-5s are everywhere in the Navy, and it's like, you guys are fucking killing me. Like, we're like a couple generations past you now, and they're like, well, of course the Air Force has nothing but money. That's what they love to say. The Air Force has nothing but money. No, we fucking don't. We have the same budget everybody else has. We just spend it dumber on prettier shit that makes everybody think we have all this money. Because there's like there's an old meme that floats around as like a soldier when he first goes through an Air Force base, and it's like Will Smith from The Fresh Prince, like looking out the window of the cab. He's like, and everything's all pretty and beautiful. And it's not. It's a facade. It's made to look like that.
Yeah.
And
to attract people.
And not just that. A lot of the shit that people are awed by, that's fucking Cold War money. You know what I mean? Like, the world loved. There was a point where in the 50s, the Department of Defense loved the Air Force because we had all the nukes, right? We're keeping the Russians at bay.
You had the nice toys.
If you want it, you get it, right? And they flaunted that shit. But people don't think about it. Here we're going to fast forward to 2008, 2009, 2012, and 2010. It takes money to maintain that stuff.
Right.
Right. Your pretty big brick buildings you built during the Cold War take millions of dollars to maintain.
Yeah.
They privatized housing in the Obama years. That was one thing that happened that I thought was interesting.
Housing for
base housing.
Oh.
So and that was DoD wide, right? And I think it went to like 3 different contractors, and I think it's down to 1 now. I think there's only 1 surviving contractor that runs housing for all those who live in base housing. And we lived in base housing at the time with me and my ex.
Yeah.
And through the transition, so we had government-run base housing, which was sweet.
Okay.
Like, they were strict on certain things, slow to fix things. But then they were like, but then like when shit was fixed, it was fixed right.
Okay.
Right? You didn't really have to worry about having to like create another ticket for the leaky sink. They came and fucking knocked that shit out right away. Right? You had a higher level of maintenance.
Okay.
Will, right? And so then
base housing.
Then we moved to the next base housing because we'd had a good experience from Mississippi to Georgia. And it was garbage in Georgia.
Oh.
And
like mold and
just the house we had, the person who lived there before us had paid to carpet the living room.
Yeah.
They didn't carpet. A lot of base houses didn't have carpet everywhere. And so they paid to carpet the living room. So we inherited a house that had carpet in the living room. It made us kind of a unique item, right?
Bougie and stuff.
Or like fucking, this fucking and because that dude had moved out, they had to replace the carpet. So they were even more salty about that. And they did a shitty job, right? And so like we had a bad leak underneath the master bedroom sink, and it was a big shit show. The counter, like I had this like desktop right here. The counter in the kitchen would like lift up.
Whoa.
Yeah. and they were a pain in the ass with getting maintenance because they're a contractor. We're not part of the government, but we are the government. We take their money, right? And we were in an off-base compound that was base housing. So we're like around the corner from where work was, but yet we're a secured by the base location.
Mm.
Well, these assholes, they don't know how to do anything. If you put 2 cars on our street, side to side,
Yeah.
nobody drives.
Gosh.
There's not enough space to make it through there.
Gosh.
And so we had a few traffic issues like that on our street.
Mm.
And like we would call the fucking office and they'd be like, oh yeah, we can't do anything about that. And I'm like, but when you take on the contract for base housing, you take on all the bullshit that goes with it.
That's right.
You have to deal with this traffic situation. Because I can't call base security forces. I can't call the base cops to come deal with this. And I'm like, do I need to call, because this isn't Warner Robins. I was like, do I need to call Warner Robins PD and have them come deal with this traffic situation? And they're like, well, no. And I was like, well, then who takes care of this? And so we had pushed back on that office a lot, and they hated us by the time we left. My command had to be there when I owned process because they were like fucking jerks. Because we had gotten in a bunch of fights with them, and they it was bad. My ex is really good at picking fights with people that she made me come clean up, and that was one of the fights that she'd picked with somebody and made me come clean up.
Sorry, I had to go through that.
Yeah,
gosh,
it was. She was really good with that kind of shit. I'm so glad that and it happened in Belgium too, because she pushed back when we lived on base in Belgium.
Oh my!
I didn't want to live on base in Belgium.
Was it nicer base at least?
No.
Even in Belgium, you guys are.
No, it was much worse situation, and we had an incident where they were wanting to create remote access for the base housing contractors to have access to the thermostats in the house. And they were going to set all the thermostats at a much lower temperature across the entire enterprise. And, it was pretty freaking cold, lots of little kids, yada, yada, yada. And all of us kind of thought it was bullshit, and it was kind of a safety situation. And when you create this when scarcity becomes the norm, right? This is in 2012, 2013, we're trying to leave. When scarcity becomes the norm, then it creates these kind of things, right? Where they're like, oh, I can save a couple of dollars here. I can save a couple of dollars here. Save a couple of dollars there.
Yeah.
And that had been the phrase that pays across freaking 08 to 15.
God.
What it was cut, save money.
Yeah.
The DOD costs too much. And so
that affected you guys firsthand.
And so I'd gotten in this big tiff with them. I was an area coordinator. It was big shit. And so I had been kind of tasked as a leader with their office, or I volunteered to lead the project with their office and make sure my area was squared away.
Nice.
But they fired me as an area coordinator after I pushed back on that. And I was like, oh, well, that's shitty. I smashed their sign before I returned it to them.
Nice.
I was like, when I pulled it out of the ground, it broke. I don't know. And we had gotten to a big tiff with them over a repair to the house. So the neighbor next to us, our house was a grouping of 4 houses, right? Yeah. Our backyards are connected. The guy on the end next to me is supposed to be my pathway out from my backyard. Well, he didn't want to see it like that.
What do you want to see it like?
He wanted to see it as I should bring everything through my house because we're physically connected. We share walls.
Okay.
Right? And so, if I had to mow my grass, the intention was where I could go through his gate that exits out onto the street, through his yard, into my yard, mow my yard, and go back around. That way, equipment doesn't move through the house.
Okay.
Right? No. He had a problem with that. And he had a toddler who he felt would open the gate between our 2 houses. And I was like, well, that gate needs to be open because if there's an emergency in the front of my house and we have to evacuate, through your backyard is our route of evacuation.
Yeah.
So no, I'm not going to fucking button up this gate for you.
Right.
Because that's ridiculous.
Yeah. Safety precautions are necessary.
Right. He didn't see it that way. So he snitches to his dads, who are not my dads. They bitch to my dads, who bitch to UCOM headquarters.
Whoa.
I get my ass chewed by the sergeant major at UCOM over this, and my supervisor has to go throw 2 zip ties on this gate.
Gosh.
And I was like, get the fucking fuck out of here. Are you serious?
Oh, my God.
And so, we were just done with these people by the time we left Belgium.
Yeah.
I had I had 2 active IG investigations against my command there.
Seriously?
Yeah, so like I was ready to go.
Yeah, you were done with that place.
And so when I left, I was like, you know, yes, we're going back to fucking Vietnam, but like this place found a way to make Vietnam like look nice. You know what I mean? And so we go back to Fayetteville, and like things were better. And a lot of that drama that was in Belgium was gone. And make no mistake, a lot of this was incited by my ex-wife. Like she was really, really good at picking fights. And she cussed that guy out in the backyard.
God.
And so that was part of what went up the chain. You know, my ex is a card-carrying Karen. So she creates this big old fight that I had to fucking deal with. And then, you know, after I get my ass chewed by the sergeant major, you know, it did damage to my career. Like, you know, I didn't get a good evaluation out of there. I didn't get, you usually get a medal when you PCS, when you move from base to base. You get some sort of, you know, combination medal based on your time there. I didn't get nothing out of there.
Man.
And it shows in your records. And so, you know, people, when they look at your records, they're like, well, why didn't you get a medal out of this place? I mean, how bad did you suck? You know, and it's like, you know, no, I didn't really suck that bad. I lost a couple of big dumb fights. You know what I mean? Like, I'm sorry. You know?
Yeah. Man.
But yeah, that was what it was.
Gosh. So I think we started at
we're way past time.
Yeah, like by a half an hour, right?
Of course.
But maybe we can do 5 minutes.
And then we'll wrap it, yeah.
Yeah, I was wondering, you know.
But yeah, under Trump v1, like, I expected a lot of the scarcity problems that we had across the Obama years to not necessarily go away overnight, but to at least get somewhat better.
Yeah.
And they did not. They kind of stayed the same. And there was never, like, there was not an influx of people like there was post 9/11, which is to be expected. But I was kind of shocked that there was just like, you know, there was a lot more go do, you know, like, you know, we were bombing the fuck out of ISIS.
Yeah.
And drone striking the shit out of ISIS.
Yeah, Soleimani, I think.
Yeah, Soleimani and fucking their territory in that year that I was there from 17 to 18 had shrunk from like this big like octopus looking thing that went across would have been Western Iraq into Syria and down into Southern Iraq. It was this big fucking blob of ISIS territory, and we just shrunk that shit down to nothing. You know,
that's wild.
So we did kick, you know, to quote Sarah Palin, we did kick ISIS's ass, but it was still kind of done on the cheap, and still not the same kind of flavor as it was in the W years. And that went all the way until I got out. Yeah. So when I got to Vegas, it's still kind of the same thing. You know, we're kind of, you know, another cheap contingency again, right? And it was that kind of vibe the rest of the way through. Promotion rates never got better.
Gosh.
I think they actually got a little worse because we redid our promotion system in 2015. Yeah. Under Obama still, where they come up with these 2 promotion statements that can come from your command, right? One is must promote, one's promote now. And only a certain amount of people of each career field can get those statements. So it's like a stratification. Yeah. Right? And if you're not seen by the command doing the shit all the time, they don't fucking know who you are. You know, and I never got one of those top 2 promotion statements. I never knew anybody who was of my career field that got promoted who didn't get one of those top 2 promotion statements. So if you got one of the top 2, if you got the top one, your promotion rate from E6 to E7 was 98%. If you got the second one, it was like 89%. If you got the third one down, which is what most of us got, which was promote, right? Yeah. It was 10%.
Why is there such a huge gap? This is insane. This is fucking insane.
So out of we're talking 300 to 400 people that are eligible every year, they're promoting about 25. Whoa. So by the way the numbers shook out, remember I was talking about, I was pissed off about having a dead end job. Yeah. I had a fucking dead end job again.
Shit.
And I was like, oh, this is what's happening. And, you know, I did my best to do everything I know how to do to try to get fucking promoted.
Yeah.
I studied my ass off because we still had to take our tests back then.
Right.
Studied my ass off and my test scores were promotable under the old system.
Oh.
They took away, because you used to get promotion points for time and grade and for time and service. So basically experience-based points. They took that away completely.
Man.
So you could take so if you had a noob who was recently like promotion eligible, so you had to do 2 years in your position to be promotion eligible. Right? So you have someone who has had, like, say we're talking from E5 to E6, from staff sergeant to tech sergeant. That person has been a staff sergeant for 2 years. You don't really learn a lot in 2 years.
Okay.
Right? And that's your first for real foray into leadership.
Right.
Right? Like, you can be criminally prosecuted for being a bad leader. And you can also ensue criminal prosecutions on your subordinates. Right?
Ooh.
So it's a lot of power.
Yeah.
There. And then if that person was a kiss ass and they were a shiny star in the organization, they could get one of those top 2 promotion statements, and they would get picked up for E6.
Wow.
And so you kind of have an inexperienced leader moving up the leadership rung.
God, I hate that.
Right? Very corporate. Right?
Yeah.
And all of this was this was all in that scarcity environment, was to cut. No, don't promote the best people. Promote the people who promote cheaply. Right? That's what it was. That was like the directive.
Slogan.
Promote cheaply. You know? You can promote people, but it needs to not cost us a lot of money.
Man.
And so that's why it became so challenging for those to make grade, right? To get promoted.
And today, with this new administration, Trump V2, how does the freezing of these different funds and things of that nature impact the military?
It depends on what funds he freezes and when.
Okay.
Right? You have
DEI,
operational funds.
okay.
You have, I think DEI does not fit operational money.
Okay.
I think that's the infrastructure money, is I think what DEI would, because it's like an in garrison type activity, right? Because when you in the contingency environment or in the field, DEI is a consideration and it's important, yes, but it's not like top tier. Killing the bad guys is top tier.
Oh yeah.
Right. You know, we apologize about how we talk to each other after we kill the bad guys.
That's crazy.
And so there's that. One thing that I want to bring up to you about the new that promotion restructure. One thing that came out of that, and this kind of part went in full phase during the Trump years. If you were darker than a white person and a male, you were not getting promoted.
Holy shit.
I knew a lot of African American men who were passed over because of those inherent biases that live within the commands.
Whoa.
Yeah, the racism, the systemic racism let its little head pop out in this scarcity age.
Gosh.
And a lot of African American men were passed over for promotion. Yeah. If you were a cute blonde white girl, the world was your oyster. No shit. And it was like that.
Wow.
Because it's all old E7s and E8s that are making this decision to give these promotion statements to these people.
That makes sense.
That are dudes.
That makes sense.
Very rarely were there females in that room or women that were part of that decision-making process.
Man.
I was lucky when I'd first come back to the States, when this shit was starting to pop off, I was in a command that was led by women. And so they kind of saw through some of the bullshit.
Yeah.
And I feel like they were pretty fair in who they gave the promotion statements to.
Interesting.
But fast forward to my next command, no. It's all dudes. And if you're a black dude in our unit, you're not going to fucking get promoted.
Shit.
And I saw a lot of like an empowerment of like the systemic racism, right? Where you'd have because I said, give me all your scrubs, give me all your shitty people, right? Remember I said that in the first episode.
Yeah.
Because I was tired of their cliquey bullshit. So I took all the people they didn't want. They were all fucking a lot of more African American men.
Oh.
Yeah. I had everyone who was not white and everyone who was not straight work for me.
Wow.
Real fast.
Wow. That's something they would jump right on. Like, they're like, yeah, you want them? Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, they're like, oh, you want these fuckers? Boom.
Gosh.
And there was a kid who had a lot of medical problems. They gave me him too. Yeah. And it was just like, oh, I see where we
Yeah,
are.
you saw the pattern. You saw.
I'm like, oh, okay, so this is what's happening here.
Wow.
But granted, I took those dudes and I fucking shit in their eye sockets for the next year until I got out. So, you know, I had my opportunity to prove them all wrong.
Yeah.
With those folks, but all the time I had fucking leadership from, you know, the leadership chain coming to, you know, hey, why is so and so got headphones on? That's the thing. You know, why is, you know, I saw one of your guys fucking walking with their hands in their pockets.
Ooh, so
and
they would do that.
I would combine, and it was always a black kid. Almost always.
Yeah,
Almost
I see what they're
always
doing.
a black kid.
Oh my.
And I'm like, oh, okay. This is what's happening here. Okay.
Gosh.
Well, and by this time I'm in the sanctuary zone. I'll be like, well, you can stop being racist.
Yeah.
And because I saw like 5 white kids fucking walk with their hands in their pockets. No one said a goddamn thing. I saw fucking several people with their headphones on who are of varying shades and genders. No one said a goddamn thing. So maybe we can have a little equality here.
Yeah.
And we can actually fucking do this right. And I also would tell them, you know, particularly if I was friendly with these folks, I'd be like, hey, listen, you know, we're at fucking war. And you're here bothering me about clothes. Is this where we want to be?
Yeah.
We're in the longest war our country's ever touched.
They deserve that.
And you want to come and fucking talk to me about someone who has their fucking hands in their pocket.
I'm glad you had the privilege to say these things.
And thank God. Thank
Yeah.
God I had the privilege to say these things because, you know, words, you know, when you hit that 18 years of service, words are no longer felonies.
Oh,
right?
yeah. Oh, yeah.
You know, words were never a felony, but, you know, still. And I was like, you know, I got the opportunity to like really push back on some folks. And that kind of led to the reason why I did what I did towards the end of my career anyway, because I took that internship at the Mob Museum because I just was sick of these assholes and their shit. Like,
God.
it's my wife talks about it. And I've heard other like post-menopausal ladies talk about it. Okay. That like at 50, the switch gets turned off where your give a fucks get set to hard off. I think I had that at like 41 when I hit the sanctuary zone in the Air Force. And I got to be like, yeah, you can go fuck yourself. And here's how and why. Because no longer can you really be punished for your speech as long as it's not blatantly mutinous, not blatantly, you know, inciting some sort of violence or something like that. But you could tell people really what you thought. And then and then they fucked up and they gave me 2 more years on that I could have took. And I was like, sure, okay. You know, and I told them what was what. You know, this is ridiculous. Yes, I understand standards are important. Yes, I understand that the rules are the rules and they're written away for a reason.
But there's a bias, clear bias.
But there's a clear bias, and there's also a clear line being drawn on you fighting the easy fight and not trying to fight the hard fight. I can fucking call you out on your fucking on having your hands in your pockets or the wrong color socks. But I can't fucking make sure I get enough bodies in the theater when they ask for people. I can't make sure that all my aircraft are mission ready. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like there's definitely a missed measurement there. And I would always fucking rub that right in their fucking face, like a dog that pissed on the floor, you know, and be like, see, this is the global war on terror, you fucking dipshit. Let me put your fucking face in it. We're losing because you fuckers think sock color is important. You know, and it was ridiculous.
Oh my gosh. I'm glad you don't have to deal with that right now.
So glad I'm out.
Yeah.
Yeah, being retired has been beautiful. And that's the attitude that I can't stand. Like, if I ever get the chance to have some sort of serious senior level influence over the military, that people who think that shit's important, their days would be extremely numbered.
Yeah. It's like focus on the mission. Forget about that shit. Yeah. And stop being racist. That's number one.
Well, like right now, the 2 senior leaders of the Air Force are 2 bald white guys. Right? The chief of staff is a bald white guy, and the chief master sergeant is a bald white guy.
Wow.
They have taken away all initiatives to create beards, because that was part of DEI. DEI was part of the drive to allow men to not have to shave.
Oh.
Or to have it be contingency based, right? So if the threat of you being deployed to a chemical environment came up, you'd have to shave. Because you'd have to fucking wear a gas mask every day.
Right. But
if that fucking wasn't in the cards, then you could fucking grow a beard. That was where we were going.
Right.
That's gone now. There's a new push they're trying to, we had Blues Mondays when we were in the Obama years, so you had to wear blues, the Air Force blues on Monday.
Yeah.
Which is ridiculous because all that just shows is that fucking the entire service can show the whole world that they don't work. because they're wearing the uniform they're not supposed to do labor in. You know what I mean? Like, it's fucking ridiculous. And so I think they're bringing that back. And there's with the OCP uniform, the current multicam uniform, they greenlit a duty identifier that they would wear on the left shoulder.
Yeah.
So like for me, it would have said like comm, or it would have said radio, right? But they've taken that away. Really? Yeah, that's a new thing they just took away. So there's a lot of like, again, it's back to this little fuck bullshit, right? You know, you think China gives two shits? You know what I mean? About who has a beard and who doesn't?
Right. They're
you know
really
what I mean?
busy doing their own thing.
You think
like...
Russia gives two shits about, you know, that I could see what that guy does for a living. Let me shoot him first. You know what I mean? Like, you think they fucking care about that shit? No. And it's this clear lack of focus on the big things. And I think it goes back to what I said before. It's that this is easy for me to do.
Easy fight. Yeah.
It's an easy fight for me to win.
Yeah.
I can't win the big one.
Right.
Right. And that's when you cut out some of the experience I was talking about before, when you don't reward experience or you even make the argument that experience isn't valuable.
Yeah.
Right. This is what you get. You get people who are misaligned with what's important, because this is what they got promoted on. Yeah. They got promoted on fuck shit. So of course that's what they're gonna do when they get to the big leagues, right? They're gonna move this crazy forward. Yeah. Yeah. Trust me. When under the Riddle administration, your asses are fucking gone.
I'm voting for the Riddle administration. I will. Well, thanks for joining me again, Jason.
Thanks, brother.
I really
had a good time.
This. Yeah, thank you so much. We'll do this again for sure.
Absolutely.
Part three.
A trilogy.
Yeah.
That's right.